Hey everybody, how's it going? Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 dime errors worth over $1,000. So this is always one of my favorite types of videos because I think that mint errors are a little bit undercovered. On my channel historically I've detailed a lot about varieties, a lot about coin collecting, but I've been doing this series as a way to go through the history of past interesting coins where it was really a mess up at the mint. And there's so much room here because there's all sorts of different errors and things can go drastically wrong, even if that's 0.0001% of the time. When you're minting billions of coins, really, there can be some super interesting stuff that happens. So the only criteria for this video is that it's got to be a cool coin, and it's got to be over $1,000, plus I guess it has to be a dime or a 10-cent denomination. So come with me on a journey through some of the coolest dimes that have ever been produced, when the thing that made them cool was not the fact that they were a key date or a variety, but rather one of these mint errors. Let's go to the presentation. And right here we have the first of these errors. It's going to be a triple bonded, multiple struck planchets kind of conglomeration that sold for a bit over $3,000 in 2014. 1999, I always remark this, it seems like there's quite a lot of different mint errors here, and I think that this is a great example of one of them. Bonded, meaning that it was different planchets that got struck together with the shear force. They end up sticking together, and you can see, the multiple strikes. It's not just this planchet, though it seems like, it was rapidly expanding, maybe out of its collar. You see how it splits apart, but then also picks up the remnants of some other strikes. Clearly a lot went wrong here. I'm not the biggest expert in explaining some of these, but this one stood out for sure. After that, we have a similar piece, except I think that it looks, a little bit different in the sense that it's two more well struck, and I love how this underlying bonded part of the set really expands as it gets struck over by the coin in front of it. And, having the flow lines really, really cool there on the side of the coin, as well as that underlying kind of clad edge part. Similar sale numbers as the last coin, 3,360, but more recently, and just another really cool dime error. Then we get to something a little bit different, more of just a classic coin that I think has a lot of eye appeal, and it's a nice 40% off center struck mercury dime that's been preserved in mint state 63 condition, so still quite good. Was presumably plucked out of circulation shortly after it was struck, or maybe before that even, but it has a little bit of sort of brownish toning that adds a nice layer of authenticity to it. It just really looks nice and sharp, and it sold for $1,680. You see a lot of the error mercuries seeming to be off-center errors. After that, we've got another one of these bonded pairs. They seem to stand out as just some of the crazier looking coins here. And in this case, I really like how it seems like the strikes are, they're not going the same way. It's been flipped around the different planchets quite a bit, and you can really see kind of the metal line where it gets crushed into the by the dies and really gets struck. This one sold for a little bit over $2,000. After that, we get into some of the more eccentric errors. This one was a Roosevelt dime that was struck on an aluminum Philippines Centimo planchet. We've struck coins from many different countries over the years, the Philippines being one of them. And one of those planchets made its way in, a very light, obviously, and aluminum weighing much less than copper nickel. This sold for just over $1,000 back in 2008, but it's really quite something if you think about it, how there's all sorts of different planchets that our coins get struck on. There's remarkable examples across the spectrum of denominations, and this is just kind of a standout example here on the dimes. There's also this one, which is more of just an indent. It's double struck. You can see a little bit in terms of, I don't know if it's through the coin or if there's some sort of clashed element to it, but it's affecting the back a little bit, but then really strong indent there. Whatever it was right over, probably another coin, obviously, but seems to have gone right over the the obverse of the coin to get that second strike forming an indent. And I really like it because often the quality control is better on the proofs, but in this case, it managed to happen on a proof coin and make its way out of the mint. $2,200 for this one. Then we've got a 2 planchet bonded pair. Again, that really seems to be the theme today, but this one I think is cool because it's like a super thick coin. The planchets split from the pressure, but they're really right on top of each other, so it's certainly a little bit different from how it normally looks. And then the capped die here, it stuck to the die as it was being struck, and that's where you get this sort of ring around the coin because the metal gets pushed up around it because it really has nowhere else to go, though it looks like they ejected it pretty quickly. It hasn't worn away here on the reverse of the coin in terms of the design. This one sold for a bit over $1,000 at $1,080 in a very recent auction. We then get to one of the transitional errors. This is pretty straightforward and easy to explain. 1965, there were supposed to be no more 90% silver coins being struck with that date. There was a backlog of silver at the mints, so they, in 1965, were striking coins that were 90% silver dated 1964, but apparently the dies were improperly switched, or the coins, the planchets were left over, and this one made its way out of the mint. And I think it's extra cool that it actually circulated. It's AU58, so it got out of the mint. Somebody picked it up, said, "Hey, this doesn't look right," and sold it for $8,400 in 2019. Not sure exactly when this was taken out of circulation, but it's a significant find either way. There's also this coin, which has, it's one of the very few double denomination with the right dies. These are dies. It's not like an overstruck coin. It was literally the cent on one side, the dime on the other side on a dime planchet. And here, somehow that 1995 obverse die probably struck a few of them. They noticed, they threw out all the coins, but somehow one made it out, and it sold for $57,500 in 2010. There's a similar one. I want to say it's from 1993, but that's on a cent planchet. So this does happen every once in a while, but for this to have occurred, it's like a 1 in a million, or a lot more rare than that to be more precise, but the figuratively a 1 in a million find, and certainly exciting that this stuff might exist out there. And then lastly, we're going to have this undated Roosevelt dime, bringing us to number 1. I think that this is more inspiring because it's not the most obvious error, and it just shows, again, this stuff, I can't say that it gets found and changed all the time, but every once in a while it makes big coin news because somebody, did a double take when they got the change back, flip their coins over, and one of them, looks like it has the same, die striking both the obverse and the reverse, and then it actually is. So I'm not exactly sure why there's the weakness around the edge of the coin. Maybe it was in a test piece. Maybe they were just getting the striking settings right, and they realized that they actually were, striking coins with 2 reverse dies. It doesn't quite make sense, but, it certainly made sense. Forgive the horrible pun in the sense that it made, $26,400 for whoever, presumably if they had found it, sold the coin here. So it's something, this one, it's conceivable that it could turn up in your pocket change. Not really, but it's possible it could be there, whereas something like a wild proof coin, far lower odds, because this sort of thing is kind of inconspicuous and can slip through the cracks. So anyways, I enjoyed taking a look at some of the fascinating and standout dime coinage from over the years, the mint errors. Interesting to see what happens when something goes wrong, and I enjoyed presenting this to you today, so I hope that you enjoyed. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment, and definitely subscribe to the channel and connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I also have a website, treasuretownYT.com, where you should go so that you can learn more about coins as well as what's happening on the channel and possibly find a place to sell your coins and collectibles. I also want to talk about some of my other projects like coinmeltprice.com, which shows precious metals prices as well as the melt values of coins containing those precious metals, both US and world. I also have coinsmetalscards.com, which will develop into a full marketplace as well as a news source for coins, metals, cards, as the name might suggest. And then treasuretowncoins.com, which long term will be my coin dealing entity separate from the channel. And lastly, whatsthegrade.com, which will be a stickering service for already certified collectibles where you can get a approval or verification of the grade on the holder. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you on some of my other videos.